slightly reduced, then we'd very much like to, in fact, create an Asia-Pacific region that can allow that reduction, discussing that possibility with smiles.
At the recent Tokyo Motorcycle Show, Kawasaki's CEO Yasuhiko Hashimoto stunned the global motorcycle community by stepping onto the stage and unveiling what would become one of the most talked about revelations in the history of the brand. A brand new cruiser motorcycle priced at an incredibly aggressive $10,000. The surprise wasn't just the bike itself, it was the entire strategy, the execution, the timing, and the boldness of launching a cruiser that challenges long-standing market norms. There was no lead-up, no months of teasing spy shots or social media leaks, just a clean, cold, calculated announcement that cut straight through the noise and forced every enthusiast and industry analyst to sit up and pay attention. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. What Hashimoto revealed was more than just a machine, it was a statement. The moment the cover came off the bike, a collective pause spread across the audience. Eyes widened as the low-slung silhouette of the new cruiser came into view. It had the classic lines that evoke memories of road trips through desert highways and coastal bends, but there was something unmistakably modern about it. Sleek LED lighting integrated seamlessly into the front and rear, a futuristic digital cockpit display, and sculpted bodywork that hinted at both power and precision. This was not a simple nostalgia play. It was a vision of what modern cruising could become. The name of the bike was equally minimalistic, as if to let the design and price point do all the talking. This machine represented an entirely new direction for Kawasaki, a company more traditionally associated with performance sport bikes, high-revving machines, and aggressive naked street fighters. While they've certainly dabbled in cruisers in the past, this was different. This was bold. Hashimoto didn't just introduce a new product, he effectively redrew the competitive map for mid-range cruiser motorcycles, a segment long dominated by legacy brands with much deeper roots in that market. The $10,000 price point immediately sent shockwaves through the industry. Here was a cruiser that looked like it should cost twice as much, delivering styling and features often reserved for bikes in the $15,000, $18,000 range. The press and crowd alike began doing the math. Could it be a stripped-down bike disguised in premium clothes? Was Kawasaki hiding some compromise? But Hashimoto had preempted these thoughts. He stood firm, assuring through sheer presence, without needing a single boastful claim, that this was no compromise. This was Kawasaki's answer to bloated pricing, stagnant innovation, and market complacency. Under the hood, or rather under the tank, the bike was powered by an all-new parallel twin engine, purpose-built for a unique blend of torque and refinement. Rather than borrowing an existing engine from its Ninja or Versys lineup, Kawasaki developed a fresh platform from scratch. The result was an engine that emphasized low-end grunt with a smooth, almost electric delivery. It wasn't about neck-snapping acceleration or track day bragging rights. This was about real-world usability. It was about rolling on the throttle in 6th gear and feeling the machine respond with confidence, whether navigating downtown traffic or carving through a mountain pass. Ergonomically, the bike was a masterclass in balance. Foot-forward controls, a plush seat contoured to hug rather than flatten the rider, and wide bars with just the right rake. Kawasaki had clearly studied the cruiser market not to copy it, but to optimize it. Every control felt intuitive. Every switch, lever, and surface seemed deliberately placed. Even the paint finish, available in deep matte metallics with understated pinstriping, spoke of quality craftsmanship and attention to detail. From a technology perspective, Kawasaki didn't hold back. The cruiser featured smartphone connectivity, ride modes, traction control, ABS, and even a cruise control system integrated in a minimalist dashboard. The inclusion of these features at a $10,000 price point was borderline disruptive. It wasn't just about what the bike had, but what that meant for every other manufacturer currently charging a premium for the same, or even less. Hashimoto had essentially told the world, performance, design, and technology are no longer exclusive to the elite price range. The global motorcycle press didn't know what to focus on first: the bike's aesthetics, the engine architecture, the tech suite, or the impossible price point. The reaction was a mix of disbelief and admiration. It became immediately clear that this was not a vanity project. Kawasaki wasn't playing games. The brand was throwing down a gauntlet at the feet of every other cruiser maker from Milwaukee to Munich. And the most disruptive part of it all wasn't the bike's styling or tech, it was the philosophy behind it. Hashimoto wasn't just offering riders a new machine, he was rewriting the contract between rider and manufacturer. Why should someone have to pay $18,000 to feel the wind in their hair on a machine that looks and feels premium? Kawasaki was making that dream accessible again. The choice of venue for the announcement only deepened the impact. The Tokyo Motorcycle Show is not usually the stage for cruiser debuts. That ground is typically reserved for performance machines and electric concepts, but Hashimoto's team knew exactly what they were doing. By launching the cruiser in a space where innovation and progress take center stage, they reframed the narrative. Cruisers aren't stuck in the past. They are evolving. And Kawasaki wants to lead that evolution. Beyond the machine itself, the announcement hinted at broader implications for the industry. If Kawasaki could build and sell such a well-appointed cruiser at this price, then what excuse did competitors have? The entire supply chain was now under scrutiny. Dealership networks began asking questions about margins, consumers started recalculating their budgets, and social media forums lit up with speculation and anticipation. Riders who had been saving for used Harleys or considering financing options on pricier alternatives suddenly found themselves reconsidering everything. Kawasaki dealers were reportedly caught off guard. The announcement wasn't just a shot across the bow, it was a thunderclap that left everyone scrambling to prepare. Supply forecasts needed revisiting, floor plans had to be updated, and yet this was exactly the kind of chaos Kawasaki was aiming for. Controlled disruption. Not for the sake of it, but to shake a segment that had grown too comfortable, too insulated from the pressures of modern market demands. Hashimoto's decision to anchor the cruiser at a round, psychologically resonant price, $10,000 exactly, was strategic. It's a threshold that straddles affordability and aspiration. It's low enough to attract new riders, yet substantial enough to promise quality. For many, it will become the benchmark. Can it do what the new Kawasaki Cruiser does for 10 grand? Will become the new test by which all rivals are judged. The pricing isn't just aggressive, it's philosophical. It argues that motorcycling should be accessible but not cheap. That riders deserve value, not inflated badge prestige. This is not to say that Kawasaki has built the perfect bike. But perfection isn't the goal here. Leadership is. What Hashimoto has done is redefine the playing field. Competitors now have to make a choice. Adapt or risk becoming irrelevant. That kind of pressure rarely comes from one model alone, but in this case, it very well might. This isn't a niche model destined for limited production. The platform appears designed for scale, suggesting that Kawasaki is prepared to back up its boldness with volume. Even the brand's internal DNA is being stretched in new ways. Kawasaki has always had a certain edge, a performance-focused persona rooted in its supersport history. By launching this cruiser, they're expanding that identity without diluting it. This isn't Kawasaki going soft. It's Kawasaki going wide, claiming more of the road, more of the rider experience, and more of the emotional landscape that makes motorcycling so magnetic. Hashimoto's presentation was devoid of the usual corporate fluff. No overproduced videos, no nostalgic montages, just facts, presence, and conviction. It was almost as if the bike spoke for itself. And in many ways it did. The audience didn't need to be told it was revolutionary. They could see it. They could feel it. It was clear from the glint of the paint, the stance of the frame, and the cohesion of the overall design that this bike wasn't built to merely compete. It was built to dominate. For existing Kawasaki owners, the launch opened up new possibilities. Riders who had long associated the brand with high-performance sport machines were now envisioning garage spaces with two Kawasaki's, one for adrenaline and one for adventure. Meanwhile, riders from competing brands, some loyal for decades, were forced to confront a new reality. That an interloper had arrived, and it wasn't just knocking on the door, it was kicking it down. Perhaps the most compelling aspect of the event was the way it reframed what a cruiser could be. Traditionally, cruisers have been about heritage, about evoking the past. They often carry the weight of legacy and tradition. Kawasaki, through this launch, subtly dismantled that narrative. They proved that a cruiser can be contemporary, forward-looking, and technologically advanced without losing the soul that makes it emotionally resonant. Dealers and industry insiders will likely spend the coming months reassessing their own lineups and business models in light of this new benchmark. And while the bike's full specs, riding impressions, and market performance will inevitably become part of the ongoing story, the impact of its unveiling is already seismic. Hashimoto didn't just release a new product, he started a movement. As the dust began to settle from Kawasaki's earth-shaking announcement, the reverberations continued well beyond the show floor. The unveiling of the $10,000 cruiser was more than a new product launch. It became an ideological pivot, forcing the entire motorcycle industry to reassess its trajectory. Not since the heyday of the metric cruiser wars has a single model provoked such widespread internal conversation across brands. Every meeting room, boardroom, and dealership network suddenly had one item climbing to the top of their agenda: how to respond to Kawasaki's audacious move. One of the most fascinating aspects of the launch was how thoroughly Kawasaki disrupted the traditional segmentation that has long defined the cruiser category. In the past, motorcycles in this space have fallen into distinct classes: entry-level cruisers built to be accessible but stripped down, mid-tier models offering better components and larger engines, and premium flagship cruisers from heritage manufacturers that trade heavily on brand legacy and often feature bloated price tags. Kawasaki's new offering didn't neatly fit any of these. It straddled the line, delivering premium appointments at a mid-range cost. That convergence is where the real disruption lies. It's not just the introduction of a new model, it's the erasure of old boundaries. The implications ripple outward. For many years, larger manufacturers have relied on the assumption that consumers equate price with value and prestige, particularly in the cruiser segment. Riders were expected to pay a premium not only for displacement, but also for the historical cachet of a name or a logo stamped into the tank. What Hashimoto has now done is call that bluff. He effectively dared consumers to reconsider what they're paying for. If riders can get modern design, cutting-edge tech, and high-performance components at $10,000, then every bike above that threshold now faces uncomfortable scrutiny. What makes Kawasaki's move even more daring is how it redefines brand aspiration. For decades, aspiration in motorcycling has largely been about climbing price tiers. Starting on a beginner bike, then saving or financing your way up to a flagship model, often a cruiser dripping in chrome with a deep, throaty exhaust note. But with the launch of this new cruiser, Kawasaki flips that narrative. Instead of teaching riders to aspire upward through escalating prices, they're teaching them to aspire toward design and innovation. It's no longer about owning the most expensive bike. It's about owning the smartest, best-conceived machine, regardless of price. Kawasaki's design team, led by engineers steeped in both high-performance sport bike development and global market research, clearly crafted this bike for a new generation of riders. These aren't customers who grew up idolizing only Harley-Davidsons or Triumph Bonnevilles. These are digitally native, comparison-shopping, value-focused riders who want timeless style but expect 21st century innovation. This emerging demographic doesn't care about brand loyalty in the traditional sense. They care about quality, aesthetics, usability, and experience. Kawasaki didn't just meet them halfway, they designed this machine for them. A particularly telling detail in the bike's construction was its modular frame design. Unlike many cruisers that favor heavy, single-purpose frames designed to evoke a certain aesthetic at the cost of versatility, Kawasaki's platforms seem deliberately built for adaptation. The implications of this are enormous. It suggests a family of bikes could evolve from this base: scramblers, bobbers, perhaps even lightweight tourers. By launching with a cruiser first, Kawasaki not only enters a market long considered impenetrable by Japanese brands, but they also create a base from which they can radiate influence across multiple riding styles. Then there's the international strategy. By choosing a price point and feature set that appeals equally to North American, European, and Asian markets, Kawasaki has made a globally relevant product. In the US, the cruiser aesthetic is deeply rooted in identity and Americana. In Europe, where space is tighter and regulations stricter, riders often seek efficiency and balance. In Asia, cost and agility are paramount, but so is brand prestige. Kawasaki's new cruiser manages to address all three spheres without feeling diluted or compromised. This is not a bike that plays to the lowest common denominator. It elevates expectations universally. Notably, Kawasaki's emphasis on environmental compliance and emissions performance flew under the radar in the excitement of the initial announcement, but it's one of the most forward-thinking elements of the launch. The cruiser is equipped with a highly efficient catalytic converter system and engine tuning calibrated to meet Euro 5+ standards without sacrificing ride quality. This ensures global homologation and removes any regulatory roadblocks from key markets. In a time when even the cruiser category is under increasing pressure to go green, Kawasaki's engineers have quietly future-proofed the bike. It's a subtle signal that this platform isn't a one-off. It's part of a larger roadmap. The ergonomics and rider triangle also defied expectations. Whereas many cruisers fall into the trap of exaggerated form over function design, placing handlebars too high or seats too low in pursuit of a look, Kawasaki's engineers created a geometry that fits a wider range of body types while still capturing the classic cruiser silhouette. This opens the market considerably. Taller riders, shorter riders, women, and older motorcyclists who may be returning to riding after years away all find something familiar yet refreshing in the way this bike accommodates them. That matters in a market where inclusivity is fast becoming a buying factor. From a production standpoint, Kawasaki's timing couldn't be more deliberate. In an era where supply chain instability has delayed or inflated the price of many competitor models, Kawasaki appears to have aligned its sourcing and manufacturing logistics ahead of the curve. The announcement was not accompanied by the usual coming soon language. Units are expected to arrive in showrooms within a sharply defined window. That sort of precision, rolling out a global release in a volatile market, speaks to high confidence in the supply chain and dealership readiness. There's also the matter of Kawasaki's existing dealer network. While some brands struggle with fragmentation or inconsistent dealer experiences, Kawasaki's tightly integrated network ensures a relatively uniform buying process. That means when a customer walks into a dealership to inquire about this new cruiser, they're not met with confusion or delays. They're met with a sales team that has been briefed, trained, and prepared. That level of synchronization doesn't happen without strategic leadership from the top, and Hashimoto's hand is clearly visible. In another surprising turn, Kawasaki has also confirmed that accessories and customization parts for the cruiser will be available immediately upon launch. This is a detail many manufacturers overlook, often forcing new bike owners to wait months or years for a meaningful aftermarket to develop. Kawasaki has partnered with internal and third-party suppliers to ensure a robust ecosystem of seats, handlebars, windshields, luggage, and even performance upgrades. This positions the cruiser not just as a standalone product, but as a customizable platform, one that can evolve with the rider's tastes and needs. The aftermarket potential here is worth emphasizing. By creating a platform that encourages personalization, Kawasaki taps into a thriving culture of custom builders and do-it-yourself mechanics who are always looking for a new canvas. For years, these enthusiasts have been limited to older bikes or expensive platforms. Now they have something modern, reliable, and affordable to work from. That's an invitation to creativity that could birth an entire new wave of custom cruisers, each tracing its origin back to this one moment. From a business lens, Kawasaki's move also challenges how other companies calculate risk. Launching a new model from an entirely new platform with aggressive pricing and no soft launch would be considered high risk under most corporate standards. But Hashimoto's leadership signals a departure from risk aversion. He has introduced a new formula: bold, decisive action backed by deep research and quiet engineering excellence. It's a reminder that market share isn't won by hedging bets, it's won by setting terms. This kind of leadership reshapes internal culture. Kawasaki employees, engineers, marketers, dealers are now operating under a renewed sense of mission. Internally, such a high-profile launch boosts morale and sharpens focus. Externally, it gives investors and analysts a story they can believe in. Suddenly, Kawasaki isn't just the company behind the Ninja or the Z series. They're the company that called out an entire market segment and backed up their challenge with execution. From a community perspective, the timing of the launch also aligns perfectly with a post-pandemic boom in motorcycle interest. As people rediscover the joy of solo travel, open roads, and tactile experiences, motorcycles have once again captured the public imagination. This cruiser arrives not just as a product, but as a companion to that cultural shift. It's accessible, inviting, and stylish, all things that resonate with both seasoned riders and newcomers alike. Importantly, Kawasaki has not overplayed its hand. There was no grandiose promise of revolution, no sweeping rhetoric about changing the world. Just a calm, confident rollout of a bike that simply delivers more than expected for less than anticipated. That restraint only adds to the impact. It positions Kawasaki as a company in control, confident in its choices, unshaken by trends, and unwilling to pander. Hashimoto's personal credibility has also been elevated. While CEOs often play a background role in product launches, his direct involvement sends a message. This was his vision. He didn't just approve it, he owned it. That sort of visible accountability is rare in corporate Japan, where collective decision-making is the norm. But by putting himself on the stage, Hashimoto not only assumed responsibility, he claimed credit, and rightfully so. The success of the launch will eventually be measured in sales, but its legacy will be cultural. Years from now, when other manufacturers release their own aggressively priced, tech-laden cruisers, many will trace that shift back to this moment. This is the kind of watershed event that becomes part of motorcycling lore. The day Kawasaki didn't just introduce a bike, but reset expectations. Even the way riders will talk about this cruiser is different. It won't be about top speed or horsepower wars. It will be about the feeling of riding something that looks like art but behaves like a tool. It will be about the blend of form and function, the rare joy of owning something both beautiful and purposeful. Riders will talk about the value, not just in economic terms, but in emotional returns. How it made them feel capable, stylish, included. And in doing so, Kawasaki might have created something much bigger than a hit product. They may have created a new category, not just a cruiser, but a smart cruiser, a machine built not for tradition's sake, but for the modern rider. A category that prizes innovation, accessibility, and identity in equal measure. The impact is still unfolding. Factories are spinning up production. Dealerships are preparing demo units. Riders are watching, waiting. Some are already trading in their older bikes. Others are reconsidering pre-orders from competitors. The shockwave from Hashimoto's reveal continues to move through the industry like a silent engine humming beneath the surface. But make no mistake, the era after this launch will not be like the one before. And Yasuhiko Hashimoto didn't just witness that transformation, he authored it. As Kawasaki's new cruiser prepares to enter showrooms around the world, the sheer scale of its implications continues to expand, triggering conversations far beyond typical industry circles. The shock of its announcement was not merely confined to traditional motorcycling media, but quickly spilled over into broader consumer markets, lifestyle publications, tech outlets, and even finance columns. The breadth of interest underscored one crucial truth: this motorcycle, and everything it represents, is not just a new product. It is a cultural flashpoint. For starters, one must examine how this cruiser intersects with the modern concept of personal freedom. In an age of increasing urban density, congested commutes, and digital overload, motorcycles symbolize a visceral escape. However, cruisers in particular have often represented a more relaxed, introspective form of motorcycling. They aren't about speed alone, they're about the experience, the feel of the wind on a quiet back road, the meditative rhythm of long-distance rides. Kawasaki's entry into this emotional landscape brings a level of intentional design that speaks directly to these contemporary desires. The timing couldn't be more perfect. Younger riders especially have been underserved by the cruiser category for some time. While sport bikes and dual sports have evolved rapidly to meet the tastes and budgets of newer demographics, the cruiser segment has lagged, often catering to older, wealthier buyers with deeply entrenched brand preferences. Kawasaki's new model challenges that demographic gap head-on. It's designed to appeal to a new generation that craves adventure but is unwilling or unable to spend $20,000 for the privilege. This bike opens the doors to a more inclusive community, one not gated by age or affluence but defined by passion and possibility. From a design philosophy standpoint, what Kawasaki has achieved is an evolution of minimalism. The bike is not devoid of features. Instead, every feature serves a deliberate purpose. There's no overuse of chrome for vanity, no bulky components for the sake of nostalgia. The silhouette is aggressive yet balanced, clean but not clinical. It strikes that elusive harmony between the analog and the digital, a tribute to motorcycling's roots, with its eyes fixed clearly on the future. Such clarity of vision is rare in production motorcycles, where competing departments often dilute the final product. Here, it seems Kawasaki allowed the design language to flow with unprecedented purity. One cannot overlook the implications this has on dealer psychology. In the traditional sales process, high-priced cruisers often require justification. Dealers must spend significant time persuading potential buyers that the investment is worthwhile, often leaning heavily on brand legacy and perceived quality. With this $10,000 cruiser, Kawasaki flips that dynamic. Now, the value proposition is self-evident. It shifts the dealer's role from one of defense to one of enthusiasm. Instead of making the case for a motorcycle, dealers now simply have to present it. That efficiency in the sales funnel will likely have massive downstream benefits in customer satisfaction, conversion rates, and even brand loyalty. The cruiser's compact yet potent dimensions also set new benchmarks for the kind of spaces motorcycles can now confidently occupy. For city dwellers who need a daily commuter that can transform into a weekend wanderer, this motorcycle introduces a rare duality. It's manageable enough for tight urban traffic, yet poised enough for the open road. The ability to serve both roles, without modification or compromise, is an advantage that places it in a category nearly by itself. This kind of cross-functional relevance hints at a changing rider lifestyle, one less bound by specialization and more defined by flexibility. Another factor often overlooked in such launches is insurance affordability. With motorcycles, cost of ownership goes beyond MSRP. One of the quiet revolutions Kawasaki has sparked with this release is recalibrating what kind of bike fits into the lower to mid insurance bracket. Because of its balanced engine displacement and rider-friendly ergonomics, early indicators suggest that this cruiser will be significantly cheaper to insure than higher displacement rivals. This subtle shift could create a wave of new buyers who had previously found themselves priced out of motorcycling altogether. Not by the bikes, but by the aftercosts. Even maintenance has entered the spotlight. Kawasaki has engineered this cruiser with long service intervals and simplified access to major components, reducing the time and cost of ownership. For first-time buyers or those transitioning from smaller bikes, this translates into greater confidence and less intimidation. The simplicity of maintenance, especially when paired with global dealer support and part availability, creates a compelling argument for long-term ownership. This is not a bike to outgrow in a year, it's a bike to evolve with. Digital engagement, while not usually central to cruiser design, has been subtly but intelligently integrated. Kawasaki's decision to include an app-based interface that allows for service scheduling, ride tracking, GPS route storage, and diagnostic alerts reflects a clear understanding of what younger riders expect. It's not tech for tech's sake, it's utilitarian, woven into the riding experience in a way that feels organic. Riders aren't bombarded with data but offered tools they can opt into, tools that enhance rather than distract from the emotional connection of riding. This marks a clear divergence from the outdated notion that cruisers should be anti-technology or resolutely analog. Kawasaki has shown that it's possible to respect heritage without being trapped by it. This may be one of the most significant legacies of the launch, proving that the cruiser category can be forward-thinking without losing its soul. It may inspire a wave of reimagined bikes that take a similarly balanced approach, less museum piece, more machine for today. Also worth mentioning is the new economic reality Kawasaki's pricing has created. Competitors now face a dilemma. Do they attempt to match Kawasaki's price point, potentially sacrificing margin or lowering their own component quality? Or do they double down on heritage branding and attempt to justify a widening gap between price and perceived value? Neither option is without risk. Kawasaki has cornered the market psychologically, anchoring the idea that you can have it all for $10,000. Undoing that perception now requires extraordinary innovation or aggressive discounting, both of which carry consequences. This psychological shift extends to secondhand markets as well. For years, the used cruiser segment has thrived on riders looking for decent value under $10,000. With a new factory-backed, warranty-protected cruiser now hitting that same mark, the used market must suddenly justify its own position. Private sellers and used dealerships alike will feel the impact, as potential buyers weigh the benefits of a second-hand bike against a brand-new offering with modern tech and zero wear. It could lead to a rare flattening or even decline in used cruiser prices across the board. Then there's the issue of gender dynamics in motorcycling, a topic often sidestepped but crucially important. Kawasaki's cruiser arrives as one of the most gender-neutral designs in recent memory. Its ergonomics, size, and aesthetic are neither overly masculine nor reduced to tired stereotypes. This opens the door for broader adoption among female riders and those who have historically felt excluded from the cruiser scene. Representation matters, and Kawasaki's unspoken invitation to all riders, regardless of background or gender, may quietly become one of its most enduring impacts. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on Kawasaki's new $10K cruiser? Will it redefine the market? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching and see you next time.